What's going on, guys? Hey, it's Anthony here at the Breakout Daily. Thank you guys for tuning in. Guys, today we're going to be talking about safely and securely transporting your comic books, whether it's from your LCS or it's from a Comic-Con or pretty much from anywhere. We're going to touch on that subject today, talk about a couple of other things, so stay tuned. All right, guys, thank you again for tuning into the Breakout Daily. I'm Anthony. I'm your host here on this show. Guys, don't forget a couple of things. Hit the subscribe button down below if you enjoy this content. Also, make sure and check out our live shows over on the Whatnot app. If you've never been there or maybe you haven't purchased anything, there's a link down below that'll give you $15 for free. It's a credit on the house, and you're going to be able to use that to purchase a comic book or whatever it is you're on the hunt for. But we're on Whatnot every Saturday night. We're also there with several pop-up shows. Let's dive into the show today. A thing that came to mind with traveling as much as I have this year in years past was when I was buying comic books, packing them, and then shipping them, whether I was on a business trip and I hit a comic shop that was in the area, or if I was at the Comic-Con, like San Diego Comic-Con, Amazing Con, even a con here in Alaska that I went to earlier this year, was merely the transportation of comic books, right? Whether that's raw or graded, you go and find some of these collectibles that you've been waiting for so long. They give you a bag in some cases. They don't give you anything. Some cases the books aren't bagged and boarded. Some they are. Anyways, so you get your books, and then what do you do with them? Well, most often you'll get like a grocery bag, and then you're either carrying them around freehand, or maybe you're going to grab your favorite duffel bag and just shoving them in there. And that's going to damage your books, or there's a high likelihood of those damaging your raw books. Now, after I had done this once or twice, I was like, I got to change this up. Whether I was going to my LCS or going to another comic shop about an hour away from me, I did not like it because the books didn't necessarily arrive damaged, but there was opportunities. And as we all know, we want to minimize the opportunity to damage your books, especially if you spent your hard-earned money picking up that collectible, or maybe you got your grail of a book, you're just throwing it in your backpack or throwing it on your front seat or what have you. In my case, I've bought books from all over the country, packed them in my luggage, and then shipped them home. And so shortly after getting back into the collecting, I started with some Geminis, which you guys probably have. If you've bought books online, you probably have a couple of these guys lying around. Generally speaking, these hold between 10, right around the 10 book marker, depending on the brand and how thick they are. So I would use these. The only problem I found with this, to be completely honest, is I didn't bring tape, and tape, as goofy as it is not necessarily readily available. So when I went to San Diego Comic-Con, I had a bunch of these, and I also had some of these bigger mailers, which we're going to talk about these in a second. And I ended up using stickers to seal them just because I didn't want the flap open. I wanted the books nice and tight. Great option if you're only going to pick up a certain amount of books and you know what you're looking for. So I would highly recommend, if you are going to go to a local con or you're going to your comic shop and you know you're going to pick up a couple of books, this is a good option. But I think there are definitely some better options out there for you, again, to protect your books. That's all we're talking about here today. These guys, this is a Gemini comic supply mailer, or a bigger bulker mailer. And again, the quantities that these can hold depends on the thickness of the book, bags and boards, and how many you want to put in there comfortably. These guys I have brought with me all over the country in variations of this box. Why? Because I can shove a ton of books in there, and I feel like it's going to be pretty safe, especially in luggage. This is thick corrugated cardboard, and you can get a nice stack of books in there. So I have used these quite a bit, and I'll continue to use these, but I did pick up an alternative while I was at Amazing Con, and this next one was more or less for my backpack while traveling. This is more of a packer, kind of a big thing to be carrying around, but depending on what you're doing and how many books you're buying. So my favorite alternative right now for raw books are these BCW comic folios. They are right here. And these, again, you can fit comfortably Like here's a stack of books, super simple. This is like hard plastic covered with paper, I think is what this is. They fit right in there. Yes, there is a little bit of room, so they can move, but then it is magnetically sealed. The thing I like about these as opposed to these bigger boxes is I can fit at least one of these with a full backpack if I'm traveling. So my carry-on can have one of these with my more valuable books in it. I have fit 2, but depending on what I'm carrying for business or what kind of trip I'm going on, I like the alternative of having 2. And I just like the look of these. I threw these in my backpacks and I'm good to go, or at least I feel like I'm good to go with raw books. You do have sleeves on it, so if you wanted to put a sleeve in the front, you can do that as well. These are all affordable options to protect your raw books. Now, I highly recommend, regardless of where you're going and what you're doing, if you're picking up raw books, not in bulk. If you're going to do a bulk pickup, then go get a short box or a long box, put them in there. Right? I mean, this is more or less if you're going to your LCS, you're going to a smaller comic shop, you're going to Comic-Con, you can throw one of these in your backpack and be good to go. So those are some of the options I would highly recommend for transporting your raw comic books safely. They do come in different sizes. Obviously, you don't have to use these products. You probably have boxes in your house or you can get them. Fairly simple thing to do, but think ahead and plan accordingly. Another item that I did want to talk about is the backpack. Now, we all have different types of brands and backpacks. I've used this backpack a ton. This is just a North Face Gesture. This is a fairly affordable quality backpack. I do bring laptops with me. Generally speaking, depending on where I'm going and what I'm doing, I have at least one laptop, normally an iPad, and then other electronics that always go in the bag. So my bag starts off, I would say, fairly full. I also carry over-the-head headphones and a bunch of other stuff. So very common practice. A lot of people use backpacks. I would not shy away from using a backpack to carry goods, especially because you can fit 2 of these in here, maybe more, depending on your backpack size. And then, of course, for slabs. Now, one of the things, and I've carried tons of slabs in this backpack and my other I'm going to show you, is some people will shove slabs into the laptop pocket, which can work. But once you get a few slabs in here, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5, depending on how many you're buying, it starts to get crowded. And then, of course, the rigidity and soft protection in between does not exist. Now, that doesn't mean don't do it. I've done it and I'll probably continue to. Another option is a big guy like this. This is the Oakley kitchen sink. A bit more secure, has more luggage space for all those odds and ends I mentioned. And you may carry additional things depending on what you're doing, where you are. If you're in your local town, none of this probably matters as much. But when you go out and you go con seeking for books, stuff to think about. This, you can fit obviously a lot more in this bag. And I'm not referring either of these 2 bags, but I will be showing you one that I picked up at San Diego Comic-Con. Anyways, again, pretty good protection overall. Again, the one thing that always bothered me when I jammed a shitload of slabs in there, even though they had the plastic covering on them, is I always felt as though there's opportunity for stuff to happen. And I want to minimize any damage that I may create on comic books during the transportation process from person to me back to home or whatever that may look like. So while I was in San Diego, I ran out of space. My bags were full. I was well beyond and actually was looking for an extra piece of luggage. Couldn't find it. So I did find this guy at San Diego. This is the Hex brand or Hex X Jim Lee bag. Now this bag is relatively small by comparison. I've talked to a couple of people like the bag's too small. In hindsight, for collecting, this bag is, in my opinion, quite adequate for at least transporting goods to and fro, depending on what you're doing. Now, this bag has a nice front open area. You can shove pens, pencils, tape, cards, whatever you may want to utilize it for. And then, of course, you also have this little pouch pocket right here. You can throw some stuff in there. You have 2 side pockets for poster rolls or water bottles or whatever. That's what these straps are for. Your top up here, this is how you unzip it. And then you do have a little clamp to keep that clamp shut if you want. Light padding on the back, straps. But the cool part about this bag, and at first I thought it was a gimmick, I had to buy a bag to put some slabs in. I carried this at San Diego Comic-Con and then carried it on the plane all the way home. The cool thing about this bag is what they did on the inside. Again, this is co-designed by Jim Lee. So you've got some really nice Jim Lee art on the inside, but you also have a bunch of felt-lined pockets that you can grab a slab. We'll grab a couple slabs here, and I'll give you kind of a quick demonstration. You can fit roughly 2 slabs per slot if you'd like, and I've loaded this thing to the gills. And it gives you, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 2, 4, 6. So you can comfortably carry a dozen slabs and then still have a little bit of room in here. And they are protected. You probably can't see that too well, but there are these accordion looking things, and then there's straps that go over and hold those in play. Now, is this the end all for the comic book collector? No. However, this is a nice backpack specifically for comic book collectors or hobbyists that are picking up slabs. I feel like that's the best option. No, you don't get all the form and function of my North Face or of my Oakley bag. However, when it comes to going to a con, I find that this bag is hard to beat. Could it be bigger? Yes, it could be. But I think the design and the overall benefits for what it is, it's done very, very well. Now, should they come out with like an XL? I think they should. I think that'd be great. It is a narrow backpack. I mean, you can see it right here. I'm a fairly wide guy, so it sits on me kind of funny because it's so small, even compared to some of my other ones. But as you can see, it's more of a square design and holds your books. Now, I'll put a link to this below. Whether you get it or not is on you. I just wanted to share that because this has been on my mind a lot over the last year and a half as I've gotten books, both raw, slabs, stacking as many slabs as I can in my backpack. And I've just got to a point where it's like, man, there's got to be better ways to do it. You can also, and I didn't grab one, I would highly recommend if you're looking at purchasing several slabs, I would use this for transporting them and then get a slab box that you can then put them in and put them in your luggage if that's how you're moving stuff around. Or if it's just to your car, this is a great option because then, of course, you can load up with this, put it in whatever kind of containment boxes, your trunk, whatever you're doing, but safely still carry them around because, again, standard backpack, all those slabs are jammed together. This one allows for a little bit of separation and what have you. I've also shoved one of these in between 10 slabs. So I got 10 slabs in there plus whatever 20 plus raw books in between. And it just made life a lot better, a lot easier. And I wasn't as concerned about damaging the comic books that I just picked up. Now that's my take on it, guys. Just a little bit of tips and tricks. Always try to think ahead, especially volume wise. I think most of us think, hey, I want to go to the shop and I want to look at this, or I want to go to this con and I want to look at books. Keep in mind how big, what's the scope of the best case scenario. You get 10 books, 20 books. Okay, great. 1. If you're going to get 30, 40 bucks. 2. If you're going to go fucking nuts, grab these and then go grab a short box. But just think about that so you're not damaging or ruining these collectibles that cost a fair amount of money. Protect your investment, and this is an easy way to do so when you're traveling and or when you're at a Comic-Con, guys. That's really what today's show is about. We thank you guys for tuning in. We did just wrap up the She-Hulk season. I'll give a more of a full review. I don't want to have any spoilers because this came out right after the series finale. Some surprises in there, both good and I think bad. And then, of course, we did watch Werewolf by Night. Guys, if you have not seen Werewolf by Night, holy crap. They absolutely killed it with that show. I agree with what the critics are saying. Probably the best show. A lot of things that when I was watching this show, this is probably one of the only shows Disney has done where I'm watching and in my mind, I'm thinking, I wish that X would happen. And then bam, it happened. And I like that because it's almost against the grain of what we've seen with Disney. With Werewolf by Night, having Man-Thing do his stuff, the werewolf, of course, do do what he does and just the story and everything. Super excited to see where Marvel goes with these characters and with the follow-up to the stories that were told in that show. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Drop a comment, though. Let me know what you thought of both Werewolf by Night and She-Hulk. Of course, coming out quite soon, depending on when you watch this, but by the time I drop this, we're only about a week away from Black Adam. We will be going to theater to see that, so I'll be talking about that as well. And then, of course, we'll be seeing Wakanda Forever here pretty quick. Excited to see what that movie has in store for us. Super stoked to see Namor hit the big screen. Guys, we got a ton of great videos and content that we're going to be sharing with you here on the Breakout Daily YouTube channel. We've got a lot of cool stuff planned that I haven't dove into quite yet or you haven't seen. So we're excited as we approach that. So you're going to see that pretty soon. And don't forget, you can check us out over on the Whatnot app. We stream almost every Saturday, and then we do pop-up shows as well. Even if you want to just come in and say hello, feel free to do that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch up with you in the next video.